So it was a technical challenge. I've never painted a picture as big as that. It was the biggest painting I've ever painted, and also a technical challenge in terms of having 5 people in it, like a group portrait. I'd never had so many people in a picture, and just the challenge of trying to kind of compose the people together in the painting and make it kind of balanced and also kind of flow. Painting, it's got my parents, my mum, dad, my wife and my 2 kids, so it's five people in the painting. So it's really essentially just a continuation of a series of family portraits that I've been doing for a while now, both drawings and paintings. Painting was done over about a year, but I wasn't working on it every day. I think when you're doing something that big, for me anyway, it's much more like a kind of marathon really. It's quite, mentally can be quite tiring, so I found that quite different to the smaller scale that I've been working on quite a lot previously. Just the sense of having to kind of at times sort of grind your way through it to get to the end. There were times obviously when I really it was flowing really well, but there definitely in a painting that size there was periods where it was kind of quite mentally tiring, you know. The picture needs to kind of flow around from one person to another so that nobody's too isolated. It took me a while to get there with that before I started painting. You kind of have moments, a painting like that, I think, where you think halfway through it, oh no, maybe it's not going to work. But yeah, I think you just have to work your way through there, and in the end, just hopefully you get, some of what you'd intended to get. You never quite win. You never feel like you completely get there. I use quite a limited palette, really. 2 reds, like a cadmium red and a kind of violet red, a cadmium yellow and a kind of cooler lemon yellow, a cerulean blue and an ultramarine blue and a white, sometimes a brown, but quite a limited palette actually, which I like. I know some people prefer, using quite a broad palette with lots of colours, but I quite like just pare it down to just a few colours, and I feel like I really get to know those colours, and their properties, and that works for me anyway, I think. I don't really like, for me, portraits where people are smiling, because I think it just looks it makes it look photographic. That thing of smiling in a picture comes from photography, I think. Whereas with painting, if somebody's sitting for you, they're not going to be able to smile. And I don't know, it's just a personal thing. So they do tend to, I suppose they do look a bit miserable at times, but I think I don't know. Because if you think of a painting of a person, or I think like a representational painting is a depiction of something that isn't there, it's something that's absent. So paintings are quite melancholy things, I think. So for that reason, I'm not that keen on cheerful paintings. I don't know, it's a personal preference. So I'm not really one for smiling people.
Hello, my name is Keith Robinson and I've been a professional artist for 25 years. I was born in Helensburgh, raised in Grimsby and now live in Surbiton. This painting is a portrait of my brother Gary. The work I do is mainly concentrated on portraiture, but I do other stuff, a lot of crossover work with scientists, including my brother as well as other academics. I'll pass it over to my brother now.
Hi, I'm Gary Robinson, I'm Keith's brother. I'm the subject of this portrait, and I live and work in Canterbury and Kent at the university as an academic microbiology, teaching and researching into microbiology, using microbes and understanding how they interact with us and how they may be manipulated for economic and social good. So, what did you want to achieve? What were you trying to do?
What I wanted to do was put you in the world that you work in, really. I wanted you to be immersed into your world.
And what world do you think it is?
The world of microbiology. And I wanted to put you in the gut with these small little things that I believe live in all our guts.
So, what do you think they are?
Little things that live in your gut. It's microorganisms we all have, the microbiome and all that. And I want to juxtapose kind of you with the things you looked at in your work, which I certainly don't look at in my work. And that's fundamental idea was that really. I think they're just little organisms, very small things.
So, you've entitled the picture,
Yes,
Me and My Microbiome.
microbiota.
Oh, microbiota.
Yeah.
What's the microbiota?
Small things in your gut, and it's got a nicer word than microbiome. It's the collection of all of them, I'm guessing. I don't know. Well, I think it's that, really.
Well, I think the truth is we're only just discovering ourselves what they are.
I think we'll stop there.
We'll stop there.
Hello, I'm Craig Jefferson, and in this video I'm going to show you a series of portraits that I did of my children during the COVID lockdowns. I don't think any of us anticipated how difficult the lockdowns would be. And it was just such a strange time, being confined and all the homeschooling and everything else. But something really special came out of it for me, and that was this opportunity to paint the kids. It's something I'd never done before. I think because they were around all the time and were looking for new things to do, it was a natural opportunity. It was that for me in short intervals. They were impatient sitters, but they were good, and they kind of enjoyed the time, I think, watching me work and seeing the result as well, seeing the way I see them, I suppose. And for me, it's just a really lovely body of work to look at and mark what was a strange time, but actually you see the specialness of the time as well in these pictures. And they'll always be special and completely unique.
I am Maximilian Kulczycki, and I am currently doing art as a hobby and also studying in Edinburgh. Onion Grandma came to life on one Hogmanay night, I should say. My grandma at that time was, of course, busy chopping onions, like the usual kind of busy chef, while the rest of my family were probably going round minding their own business. But then surprisingly, my paternal grandfather sent us just random hats, just almost out of nowhere. We kind of thought to, put each one on to see how it looks. We even took occasional photos sort of each one of how he looked because it was so funny, we just had a great time. It was my grandma's turn, and she put her hat on. She got her onion and her knife. And I decided to take a photo of that because it looked hilarious. And I quickly decided to get my graphite pencils and also the color pencils and just started sketching. Well, at first, I simply started to draw a simple logo like onion here at first, putting that together with her and the onion as well in the background. Ended up with a drawing like this. It looked good. It done the job. Every time I look at it, I still laugh at it because it's hilarious. And my grandma would like to have her own accommodation one day. So I kind of thought to make almost like a surprise for her and something she can take with her when she has her own accommodation, when she will be in her own accommodation. Of course, she'll be mostly by herself. We'll be, of course, visiting her occasionally, but we won't be there every day. She'll have a reminder of the times when, you know, of those times when he had such fun. The reason I titled the artwork on Onion Grandma was simply, in many of the dishes that she does, onions are included. And I don't like the onions. I tell her for me not to add any onions, but every time her excuse is like, the onions that I put add flavor. To be honest, I think in that phrase there's a hidden metaphor, because those dishes kind of work like my grandma's personality. If I would take the onions away, it's almost like I would strip her comical side of her away, really. So I think maybe sometimes it is good to just keep the onions, you know. I think it's good to just keep them in to change the routine a bit, right? So I really hope you're all doing well, and thank you very much.
First thing, Paula, congratulations for doing so well in the competition. That's fantastic. You've done a great job, especially since you haven't any formal training. Did you do a lot of art at school?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I done higher art, and I did start some of my advanced higher with plans to go to art school. But I ended up I left it. I ended up too stressed, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. So I enjoy it as a hobby. I work in a school, a secondary school in Jordan Hill, as a support for learning worker. So I work with kids that have autism and ADHD and kids that are in wheelchairs and stuff like that, and just support them with their learning in classrooms and stuff. It's quite a rewarding job, and I get on really well with the kids and stuff. So I do enjoy my work. So I do.
Of all the pictures that I've seen done about being in lockdown, yours certainly brought me nearly to tears because you look so sad in that.
I look quite miserable, don't I, to be fair?
Do all your pictures look like that?
When I was doing my advanced higher art at school, I had done something similar for that, but the rest of them I do tend to, you know, draw myself when I'm looking a bit better, because I don't really want to show people me looking that miserable all the time. The rest of them I'm looking, you know, semi-okay, and I.
Well, it's amazingly stark and honest for something that's quite a small painting. And the judges we all thought it was absolutely brilliant for somebody that as young as yourself.
Oh, that's great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Les Donaghy, and you're currently watching a progression video of my entry for the Scottish Portrait Awards 2021, entitled I'm HAPPY. I think it sums up everyone's mood during lockdown, except this is my happy face. I'm fairly new to painting, having started about 7 years ago in recovery from brain surgery. I think I work in a fairly traditional way, but I do have to admit to being somewhat obsessed with detail. Hence the reason I tend to go over certain areas until I'm happy with them. My studio is a very messy place. In fact, it's almost as cluttered as my head. You'll see that I don't just paint portraits, but I've tried almost everything to develop my skills as a painter. I recently started a series of paintings of hands, which you catch a glimpse of here. Another recent project was a painting of St Paul's Cathedral, and here I am putting the finishing touches in. A lot of people find it very strange that I paint the way that I do. You see, I'm a very big fella. I'm about 6'4" and 300 pounds, and I tend to work with incredibly small Kolinsky sable brushes. Here I'm fixing some of the damage that my easel has done to the sky and the clouds. I know a lot of artists would say that I should use bigger brushes, but personally I get great satisfaction and mental peace from my process, and I hope you've enjoyed finding out just a little about it.
I am an Edinburgh-based photographer, and I tend to follow the themes of female sexuality and empowerment. Definitely try to capture enchanting moments in time through my photography. For this image, Euphoria, it was one of those beautiful, kind of rare summer's days where it was just so lovely and warm and the sun was glistening in the sea at Gullen Beach. It was my first meeting with Mwango. We really connected straight away. I wanted to photograph her in the sea. That kind of meant that I had to get in there with her. She was just kind of basking in the sun. The sun was just kind of falling all over her body in just this such beautiful way. And I just clicked away. This image really stood out to me as just this kind of beautiful, freeing moment. That's when the title Euphoria really came to life.
Hello, I'm Diane McNaughton and I painted my hubby with his lockdown hair. In normal times, I love to take my sketchbook outside. Here is me out sketching when we were on a holiday in Norway. Far better than doing photographs, isn't it, when you travel? During that first lockdown time, I felt very disconnected from my family. Obviously it was a terrible time for all of us. But I found by turning to portraiture and drawing my friends via Zoom and my family, I somehow was able to connect to them on a different level, and I really enjoyed drawing and painting them. Here is a painting of my friend Anne and my son with his newborn baby that I couldn't meet, and my little granddaughters. In order to do a watercolour portrait, I find it easier for me to do a good drawing to start with the right proportions, because with watercolour you can't adjust the features once you're halfway through. So if I get the drawing correct, I can work from the drawing when I'm painting. Now I tend to use just 3 colours, a red, yellow, blue combination, but I also add sap green with my portraits. I enjoy that, and I have these lovely squirrel hair mops that I use for painting. They are just beautiful brushes. I'd like to share something of my painting process here with you. I am painting my self-portrait and I'm on my second layer here. I tend to paint in many layers on my paintings, a wet layer over a dry layer. The other thing I love to do is mix my paint on the paper rather than the palette. On the palette you get a sort of a uniform mixture, but on the paper there's a certain sort of chemical reaction that happens. Some of the pigments are more aggressive than others, and so they push into the other colour and create some really interesting textures and colour transitions. I managed to take a few photographs during my painting process so that you could see how the layers build up to the final painting.
Hi, I'm Luke Coleman. I'm in my last year at Trinity Academy, and this is my piece I did as my final for hire that I've entered into the competition. This self-portrait explored sunlight and the emotion and the aesthetics that come with it. I wanted to capture the softness and delicacy that a beam of light casts across a face. The moment of winter sun was captured fleetingly in my kitchen over lockdown, where I was becoming more intrigued by these everyday occurrences, particularly the sparse amount of sunlight that came in during these short days. My exploration of the theme of sunlight caused me to use a muted, warm colour scheme and a minimal composition to try and reflect the calm and contented feeling that I was trying to explore. I'm very interested by the way that light can change the atmosphere and mood of a piece. This was created as a final resolution for my higher art.
I'm Ian Black and I'm a figurative artist. I've been studying with the Lily School of Art for the last 2 years on the figure course, and I really enjoy depicting the human figure, the skin, the bones, the muscles, the position, the translation from 3 dimensions into 2 dimensions, capturing some emotion in the painting. And this painting you see behind me here is my submission to the SPA Awards this year. It's a triple self-portrait. I retired 2 years ago, and this is, I guess, my transition from that corporate life into a creative. And you've got the corporate suit sitting bold on the chair there, and then a performer, which is another hobby of mine, and then the exhausted individual lying there after 40 years on the hamster wheel. And I enjoyed painting that. I painted it during lockdown. I didn't have a model, so I used myself. I really enjoy the work of Lucian Freud, Jenny Saville, Ewan Uglow. I love the surfaces and the planes of the body, the depiction of flesh in oil paint, and these paintings to my right here are my submission to the year-end show at Leith School, and I really tried to capture the skin and the three-dimensional moulding of the individual.
My name's Paul Rose. This is a portrait of my son Tom. Tom wants to be an actor, and so we needed to take some photos for his portfolio. So we headed up to Loch Acre in the Trossachs early one morning in July 2021. We got there very early, and as you can see here, it was particularly misty, which added great atmosphere to the location. Being his dad, I've had the privilege of taking photos of Tom throughout his life, from obviously 0 all the way up to where he was in this shot at 18. He's always been quite happy to indulge me in my hobby of taking photographs, and yeah, he's a pretty good subject, and he'll willingly sit for me. So back to the day in question, it was really misty, and we ended up after a short while heading across to Loch Lomond to see if we could get better lighting, but nothing really good came out of that particular location, certainly not for his portfolio. So I felt that the better location was Loch Acre, and as you can see here, it's pretty misty, and the midges were out in force as well. So poor old Tom in his kilt was getting nibbled to death. This is the original image as I took it. It's a very cheap camera that I used, but I thought it had some promise. So first thing was to turn it into a square crop, which I kind of envisaged, and then enhanced Tom a little bit before converting it into monochrome. At this point I wasn't really thinking of Scottish Portrait Awards, but just for his portfolio, with the lack of colour, I thought black and white would be better, and this is the final image, and just delighted to have had it accepted into the Scottish Portrait Awards finals for this year.
I'm Ben Douglas, and I'm a photographer in Dundee. The photograph, Slip Sliding Away, was taken in Dundee in front of the Caird Hall. It was taken at the start of a big snowstorm that actually left me stranded in Dundee. I didn't live in Dundee at the time. It left me there for a week. I didn't know how much I was going to love this image until I edited it quite a while later. But it was a really special one because actually what happened was the snow just started, and I don't know, everyone gets excited by the snow. Everyone gets a little bit like, oh my god, you know. And me and my friend Matt, who is the subject matter, were sitting having a coffee, and we literally darted out the door and ran out, and I started taking portraits of him, and it was very almost Taxi Driver Travis Bickle. Imagine that. He's wearing this big sort of green jacket, which you can kind of see there, and I was pretty happy with them. I was looking at them, they were fine, but then he started skating in the snow, and I didn't even know he was doing it. I was looking at the back of the camera, checking what we just got, and then it just went click, and that was the moment. That was it. That was the one photo. The rest of them, I could chuck them away. Environmental portraits, I'm really drawn to them, and using what's around you to make the image, it's like building blocks. And I think for this image, there's lots of different layers to it, although it's really simple. And I think compared to last year's entry, it's a lot more simple, and it's not as punchy and contrasting, but actually that's what makes it a really special image, is that it's just this guy. This photo's got special significance to me because it was taken right at the end of what I didn't even know was a series of images for me. And it is the final image in a book that I'm trying to work on. And that book, I feel like the image really works as a final image because it's kind of got that, I don't want to say it, but end of an indie film sort of vibe to it. It's, you know, freeze frame, the end. You know, it does have that to it. I think it could totally have that. So, but the reason it's special is because it was a really important time for me in my life, and it sort of defined who I've become. And that image almost now is a poster image in my head for the end of that era.
Hi there, my name is David Caldwell and I'm standing in front of my portrait of my brother Thomas. Quite a large portrait, it's about 5 feet, not quite life size, but you know, quite big. It's painted during lockdown at my studio, partly because Thomas was one of the only people I was allowed to paint during lockdown. Him being in our childcare bubble, he sometimes watches my baby daughter. So he was available and that was very lucky. And it was nice to hang out. You know, we don't often get time to sort of spend a couple of hours chatting, so that was really nice part of it all. There was probably eight or nine sittings of a couple of hours each. So yeah, he's playing his guitar, which he does. I like the brightness of the guitar. I like the brightness of his skin. You know, the head, the hands, the guitar are the islands of light amongst all this black. I mean, he turned up wearing black, and there's a bit of black in the guitar, so I thought let's go with that and make it a theme. It's an informal pose. I just asked him to sit on the box, and we just started really. It's a large canvas, so it takes a bit of picture making, a bit of designing and composing, and for me that's what I'm preoccupied with when I start a painting. So there's lots of diagonals in it, you know, the stem of the guitar, the box itself, lots of things to kind of to play with. You know, and that kind of underpins the naturalism, the realism, which is part of it as well. But it's not just about that for me. It's not just about you know, representing you know, the subject. It's about making an interesting painting and a painterly painting. And I think with something like this, with the guitar especially being so detailed and requiring so much kind of structure and drawing, to try and make that painterly and to try and, you know, just draw that with the brush and sort of, and not labour it and not use description but use suggestion.
Hi, I'm Li Huang. I'm a portrait painter in Dundee, and I'm currently studying at the Duncan of Jordanson College of Art and Design in Dundee. And this year, my painting Full Moon has luckily been selected at the Scotch Portrait Awards. I stayed in Dundee for quite a long time because I've got my undergrad of fine art here, and then later I got my MFA here as well. After I finished my undergrad, I concentrate more on the painting just myself and my family members, because I think it's easier to get the motivation and the inspirations from my personal life experiences, which I think is probably it's a better way to explore my personal intents and in the painting itself. The COVID-19 impact a lot of people's life, and it's probably just slow down the people's daily life and sit back and rethink about something we never noticed or we never pay much attention to. This year's painting, the Full Moon, actually I use quite a lot of natural elements to express what I want to say, what I feel.
Hello, my name is Jane Murray and I'm based in Glasgow. Growing up in the Outer Hebrides and being surrounded by so much of nature's elements and landscape, it was very natural to want to be able to capture some of it. From standing stones to peat bogs to crashing sea, As the years have passed, and now that I have my own children, I find that my camera is closer to hand than ever before. The pandemic allowed us to hit the pause button on life, and together we started doing creative and fun things as a family. I also wanted to develop my own technical skills during this period. Taking snapshots on a phone or a small camera is fun, but there's a lot of satisfaction gained by observing the light and the composition of an image and seeing how this impacts on the mood or the story being told within the final frame. In my young angular photograph, as the sky got darker and the sun lessened its unforgiving glare, it seemed that a new mood had settled on the land and the boy. It became easier to capture Daniel standing by the water with his rod, patiently awaiting a fish to bite. The silhouetted image created by the darkening day and the setting of the sun is wonderfully melancholic to my eye.